Shemini for Wednesday, 16. And he brought forward the burnt offering and serviced it according to the law. And he brought forward the meal offering. He filled his palm with 3 fingers full of it and caused it to go up in smoke on the altar, after having sacrificed the morning burnt offering. And he slaughtered the ox and the ram that were the people's peace offerings. And Aaron's sons presented the blood to him, and he splashed it on the altar all around. And they also presented the sacrificial fats from the ox and from the ram, the tail, the fatty covering, the kidneys, and the diaphragm with part of the liver. And they placed the sacrificial fats on top of the chests, and he caused to go up in smoke the sacrificial fats on the altar. And Aaron had already waved the chests and the right hind thigh as a wave offering before the Lord, as Moshe had commanded. Rashi, verse 16, and serves it according to the law, which is specified regarding a voluntarily donated burnt offering in the first chapter of Parsha Vayikra, Beitza 20a. And literally, and he filled his hand here, it refers to the mitzvah. Example, the fistful, namely the 3 fingers full of meal offering, scooped out in the kmitza procedure, Torat Kohanim 9:11, Melabed Elat Habakar, literally apart from the morning burnt offering. But here meaning after the morning burnt offering, Aaron offered up all these sacrifices only after he had offered up the morning perpetual burnt offering. Hamakasa, literally, and the covering. This refers to the fat which covers the innards. And they placed the sacrificial fats on top of the chests. After the waving procedure, the priest who has performed the waving hands the portions over to another priest who will burn them. The result is that the portion which were previously situated on the top are now on the bottom, due to the priests inverting all the portions in order to place them into the receiving hands of the next priest. See Rashi, Leviticus 7:30, where this is explained. Menachot 62a. In more detail, Menachot 62a. Haftarah, Prophets, 2 Samuel 6, verse 16. And it was as the ark of the Lord came into the city of David that Michal, the daughter of Shaul, gazed out the window and saw King David leaping and dancing before the Lord, and she scoffed him in her heart. And they brought in the ark of the Lord and set it in its place, in the midst of the tent that David had pitched for it, and David offered burnt offerings and peace offerings before the Lord. And when David had concluded offering the burnt offering and the peace offering, he blessed the people in the name of the Lord of hosts. And he distributed among all the people, among the whole multitude of Israel, both to men and women, to everyone a loaf of bread and a measure of meat and a jug of wine. So all the people departed, everyone to his house. Then David returned to bless his household, and Michal, the daughter of Shaul, came out to greet David, and she said, "How did the king of Israel do himself honor today, who uncovered himself today in the eyes of the handmaids of his servants, as one of the vain fellows shamelessly uncovers himself?" And David said to Michal, before the Lord, who chose me above your father and above all his house, to appoint me prince over the peoples of the Lord, over Israel, before the Lord did I make merry. Rashi, verse 17, and set it and placed it, 19, and a measure of meat, 1/6 of a bull, means 1 jug of wine, as if it were written, Achad, men, halakim. Example, one of the vain fellows. Writings, Proverbs 23, verse 23, 22. Hearken to your father who begot you, and despise not your mother when she is old. Buy the truth and sell it not, also wisdom and instruction and understanding. The father of the righteous will greatly rejoice, and he that begets a wise child will have joy from him. Let your father and your mother be glad, and let she who bore you rejoice. My son, give me your heart, and let your eyes observe my ways. For a harlot is a deep ditch, and an alien woman is a narrow pit. Rashi, verse 23, buy the truth, even if you have to pay for the instruction, and sell it not. However, teach it for free. 27, pit, just as a narrow pit, so too is an alien woman. Gemara, Bava Batra 98a. Rabbi Hiya bar Yosef said, the condition of wine depends on its owner's luck and not upon that of the jugs. For it is said, yes, moreover, wine is treacherous, example, turns sour, if the man is haughty. A haughty person who boasts of that which he does not possess is punished measure for measure by having that which looks like wine turn into that which is in reality is vinegar. Habakkuk 2:5. Rabbi Mari said, one who is proud is not acceptable even to his own household, for it is said, a haughty man abides not. Ibid, this means he abides not. Example, is not tolerated in his own abode. Rav Yehuda said, in the name of Rav, anyone who is not a scholar and parades in the garb, literally cloak, of a scholar, is not admitted within the circle of the Holy One. Blessed be he. For here it is written, and he abides not, Ibid. And there it is written, to your holy abode. Exodus 15:13, Neve, habitation, abode in Exodus is from the same root as inve, abides in Habakkuk. Why has it been stated in the Mishnah Bava Batra 6:4, a wedding house for his son or a widow house for his daughter, and not a wedding house for his son or daughter, or a widow house for his widowed son or daughter? By this, the Mishnah has taught us incidentally that it is not the proper way for a son-in-law to live at the house of his father-in-law, as it is written in the book of Ben Sirah, I have weighed all things on the scale and found nothing lighter than bran. Lighter than bran is a son-in-law that lives in the house of his father-in-law. Lighter than such a son-in-law is a guest who brings in with him another guest. And lighter than such a guest is he who replies before he hears the question. For it is written, he that gives answer before he hears, it is folly and shame to him. Proverbs 18:13. Ethical Teaching, Sha'arei Kedusha, Part 2, Section 7. The worst two characteristics are anger and pride. Anger is considered equal to idolatry. In one's anger, he destroys his soul. It is uprooted from him and departs and is exchanged for, example, he receives a different evil soul. Worse than anger is pride and arrogance, which is considered equal to idolatry. An Asherah, example, a tree of idolatry, an abomination, and the denial of God's existence, and as though one engaged in all the forbidden relationships. His dust will not be awakened at the resurrection of the dead. With regard to punishment for a negative commandment, there are those which are simple prohibitions for which flogging is not given, such as a negative commandment that does not involve an action or which is connected to a rectifying positive commandment, and so on. Worse than these are those negative commandments for which flogging is given, and these two categories, as well as the non-performance of any positive commandment, except for the two severe ones mentioned above, all of these are called light sins, Any of the severe positive commandments, as we previously mentioned, as well as any negative commandment, except for these two categories mentioned above, are all called severe sins. They have many levels, namely all those for which one deserves karet, death by the hand of heaven, or capital punishment, not taking God's name in vain, even though it is not punishable by karat, from a certain standpoint is gravest of all, because punishment is exacted from the perpetrator, from his family, and from the whole world, even from someone who was not capable of preventing it, concerning the desecration of God's name and what is considered a desecration of God's name. Rav said, I, for example, if I were to buy meat and not pay immediately, Rabbi Yochanan said, I, for example, if I were to walk 4 cubits without Torah and Tefillin because I felt ill, and whoever saw did not know that it was due to illness and learned from me to be lax about Torah and Tefillin, Rabbi Yanai said, if he did anything which causes his friends to be embarrassed to be seen talking to him, because it gives them a bad reputation, Abai said, like that which was taught, love the Lord your God, Deuteronomy 6:5, that the name of heaven be beloved because of you, that one should study scripture and Mishnah, and his business dealings be honest and he speak generally with other people. But if his business dealings are not honest, the name of heaven is desecrated through him. Practical law, Rambam, Laws of Sacrifices, chapter 3, verse 1. If two people want to bring a peace offering or a burnt offering in partnership, they may do so either as a vow or as a voluntary offering. Even bird sacrifices may be brought in partnership. Both men and women or slaves may bring any type of sacrifice, but from non-Jews, we only accept olot, burnt offerings, as it says. And from the hand of a foreigner, you must not bring the bread of your God. Leviticus 22:25. Even a burnt offering of a bird is accepted from a non-Jew, even though he worships idols, but we do not accept from them shelamim, peace offerings, menakot, meal offerings, chataot, sin offerings, or ashamot, guilt offerings. Similarly, we do not accept from non-Jews those burnt offerings that do not come for a vow or as a voluntary offering, such as the burnt offering of a woman after childbirth, and other burnt offerings such they do not come because of a vow or as a voluntary offering. If a non-Jew brings a peace offering, it is sacrificed as a burnt offering because a non-Jew's intention is for heaven. Example, that his sacrifice be given only to God by being burnt on the altar, and not that any of his parts be eaten. If he vows a peace offering and gives it to a Jew with a specification that it should atone for the Jew, Jews eat of it, as is the case of the peace offering of a Jew. So too, if he gives it to a priest, the priest eats of it.